So our last panel will talk about the culture in startups, big corporations, and how they relate to each other. Mateo Rocco, Head of Communications at Wayra, will lead the panel and introduce our truly amazing panel of speakers. Please help me welcome Mateo.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So, thanks for the introduction, Emmanuel. For us, it's a great pleasure to mix. We have this afternoon 4 great entrepreneurs, but also 4 great persons. And I'm going to introduce each of them just with a quick phrase, and then they can share with all of you what they are doing. The panel this afternoon is about startups, corporations, the mix in between both worlds, and how you can create new opportunities thanks to having worked in a corporation or in a startup or in both worlds. So we have here Pedro Jareño, who used to work at Microsoft. He's also the co-founder of Minube, and he's a great entrepreneur, optimistic, and is always connected with startups. So welcome, Pedro. We also have Pedro Serraima now he's working at Telefónica. He's also an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, one of the founders of Pepefon. He's a great case study and a success story of a startup in Spain. So welcome, Pedro. We have also Marcos. Marcos is the co-founder of Mad Lions. He has been always working with startups. He's a great entrepreneur. He's also teaching, mentoring startups, so he's 100% connected with the entrepreneurship world. So welcome, Marcos. And also Valeria Dominguez. She's also an entrepreneur. She used to work leading the e-commerce strategy of Adolfo Dominguez, who some of you I think you may know it. It's one of the biggest clothing company in Spain. Now she's also a great entrepreneur, working with also influencers. She now founded Felino, and so welcome also Valeria. So the idea of this afternoon is just to mix all of them. They have in common that they have been entrepreneurs, or they are entrepreneurs in their souls, but also they have worked in big corporations, so they know how to. We always talk about how to dance with the elephants, no? How to move a big corporation. So in your case, I wanted to share with you just one question. Do you think that the corporations can face the challenges of today and tomorrow without having entrepreneurs in their fields, in their teams? So who wants to start? Maybe Valeria.
Yes. So probably not. I think that big corporations, they know if big business is a big success by definition, but it's usually a big success in doing what they know how to do, and then they become better and better and better at it, but they're basically on one track. And so when it comes to not exploiting your existing business, but exploring something new, I noticed that the big corporations are hopeless at it, just completely hopeless at it. And so I do think that they need, and they know they need, because there's been a lot of large businesses hiring entrepreneurs to come and help them explore. Because you explore in a very different way than you run an existing business. And that's why you need completely different profiles, and you also need to give them a totally different type of freedom than you're used to, and you can't control them like you'd like. It's sort of like a freer spirited sort of team. And I think that's where the future is going. If big corporations, want to succeed in the future, they have to learn how to explore.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think, Pedro? Pedro just moved to Telefónica a few months ago. So in your case, how you see it? You come from being an entrepreneur during many years. So what do you think? Like, the corporations need entrepreneurs? They just like...
I think that every company needs an entrepreneur, but we all think an entrepreneur as someone that is starting a small project, putting at risk just the money or the time. But I think that an entrepreneur is someone that is able to put at risk something, not only money. Can put at risk their prestige, can put at risk their time, their position, or anything. I think that all the companies in the world need to have someone inside that that pushes forward the things, that put something at risk other than his position in order to achieve some project. When we see it from an isolated point of view, we think as a young people, as a young guy developing something, and we think he's an entrepreneur. But in all the big corporations, there are small and a lot of entrepreneurs that are people that from their departments or from their areas or from their part of knowledge decide to start a new project inside a company. It's harder to do it inside a company because you have to move an elephant, but you have the resources to move it. And it might be easier to move outside because you don't need to move any. You are moving an ant, but you don't have the resources to do that. So I think it's equilibrated. But in all the companies, small and big corporations, you need an entrepreneur.
And Pedro, you just moved from. You used to be the co-founder of Minube. You used to work in Microsoft. Now you're not anymore. You're not anymore in Microsoft. So, what's your experience in that case? Like, what's your opinion?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with both, and I totally agree about entrepreneurial spirit is more that an attitude than a way. It's more a way of living, and you can be, of course, an entrepreneur within a big corporate. And of course, I just left the company about 2 weeks ago. So but I left because the project I was involved, it was finally impossible to achieve because these big corporates, they sometimes change their strategy, and you have to change your role. You have to change the way you do things. And in my case, I decided to leave it that way. But I really think that, of course, you need entrepreneurial spirit in the corporates. I really believe that there's a lot of corporations right now that they are doing that with their own people. I had so many conversations with many different, CEOs or innovation directors at important corporates, and they always say that when they create these innovation programs, or they're trying to create a corporate venture to work with the startups, they finally find out that they have much more entrepreneurs within their teams that they believe. And so I think, and answering your question, that what I really think that a huge corporate is not going to survive without making this happen, finding those internal entrepreneurs and make them to connect with the external ecosystem. Because of course you can innovate within a big corporate, but there's a lot of innovation happening around you, and it's going to be quite important to connect these both worlds. There's a huge gap right now, from my opinion, between corporates and startups, and at the same time they both need each other, right? Yeah. So I think these champions, maybe internally or externally, they might be the ones that connect those worlds that need each other.
And what's your opinion, Marcos? You used to be also working at Telefónica a long time ago, and now you are an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. Yeah. So how do you see it? How do you see this mixture of both worlds?
Well, I guess this is part of the life cycle of a person, not just a professional or a worker. When I was at Telefónica, I left 2007, a couple of years ago already. And before leaving, I was listening to a lot of people internally in the company speaking about how bad Telefónica was, how shitty the environment and the culture of the company was. And everyone was just complaining, moaning, and just seeming desperate for something completely different. Everyone was just complaining. It was at the moment in which there was the convergence. So let's take it this way. Fix taking over mobile people getting mad at something like this, and everyone was just complaining every single moment. And I remember perfectly well that the day I told a lot of people there I was leaving, the very same people they were complaining every single day about everything at Telefónica, they were saying, but how come you're going out of Telefónica?
Yeah.
There is a lot of, it is a colder environment outside. What the fuck? I mean, get lost. You've been complaining all day long for months and months. You continuously complain about this shitty culture at Telefonica. And when I say Telefonica, I guess it is exactly the same for Microsoft or for Vodafone or for, I don't know, any of the companies that are out there.
Yeah.
And that, by the way, this is one of the purposes they have with these kind of innovation programs. So at the end of the day, it is just that you just want to complain, and that's it. So it is, I mean, I would say it is part of a personal opinion. When you feel that you don't fit anymore in your organization, you either leave it, you either accept it, or you either change it. But stop fucking complaining. Leave the rest of the people trying to change it. That is my experience. And I left Telefonica. I went into working for other companies, Oliver Wyman, e-learning companies, even for Eurovision, nothing to do with the song contest, for 2 years and a half. And there is a great deal of the very same experience repeated in completely many different environments, even when they're international. You live this corporate, international, super big company. When you get into paying the bills on your own and not knowing if you're going to get your wage, your minimum income, monthly income, things change a lot. And I think this is really part of the experience a person and a professional should go through in their lives if you're going to get a complete profile. Apart from that, of course, I consider this is kind of engineering thing, but I think there are two types of people. The ones that are starters, there is the transient regime workers or goers, and the permanent regime goers. So starters, I guess you and me, we are starters. We need to do something from time to time that is completely new. Every single 2 years, you need a change, or every 4 years. You change or you just die of boredom. And there are other people that they just cannot live with change. They prefer to take something, take it and make it beautiful for the rest of their lives, which is okay. We need both type of profiles in companies. But as a person, you need to identify, choose, and know which type of person you are.
So you both talk about, for example, freedom in the company to just innovate or change the things. You talk about like complaining, or how can you change like big projects. So what's the secret sauce, or what do you recommend, for example, to just make this big change in a corporation? Because what you're saying about Telefonica or about other corporations is like, oh my God, there's so many people just in this way of thinking like, yeah, I have a great job and I'm going to retire here. I don't want to do anything new. So I think that we are facing a huge challenge. How you can just not change the mind, but help them to change the way of living. Because it's like, if you're complaining every day in a job, so what's the purpose of your life, no? So
I would say,
and it's open for everyone. So
I don't care. If you want to change, you do it. If you don't want to change and you're happy with what you're doing, you just live with that. I mean,
but I guess like big corporations, for example, Valeria, what do you think? Like big corporations need to change this kind of culture inside. So how can you change it, or what do you recommend, or how you see it?
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. You know, when corporations get so successful that they get really large, they become very fat and complacent. I mean, that's just a reality. And I think that the type of people that they attract and retain are not entrepreneur types. They are more the iterators, the continuers, and I think it's really important to have a mix. And so when you have a business that has primarily people that want a job for life, that want to retire there, it can be almost mission impossible to change the culture, you know? And so they've studied this, and they said, you know, strategy, you can change it overnight, but culture is almost impossible to change. So businesses that have a culture that's complacent, I'm not saying Telefonica is complacent, I'm just saying businesses that are complacent are almost doomed for a very slow death. And that's the natural life cycle too, you know? I don't think that corporations are meant to live forever, like nothing's meant to live forever. So I think that that's also what gives opportunity for startups and new business. And so for example, in retail, fashion retail is a very creative field, but it's not a very techie field. And I think that the big wins are gonna go for people that are both creative and techie. And most retail businesses are creative but not techie. And so they're kind of missing out on all of the opportunities for growth. And retail as a whole is sort of, you know, flat, low, and online digital is growing tremendously. But it's really hard to convince organizations that have been very successful to take chances. And they also want to apply a very bureaucratic methodology to it, which doesn't work. Even when I was in Adolfo Dominguez, to be honest, people we're always trying to control everything to a point where it just doesn't work that way. And so the big question was like, well, how much are you going to make? And in 6 months, what are you going to do? And what are you doing in a year? And what's your 3-year plan? And what's your 5-year plan? And when you're trying to explore, you really can't fulfill that. And so often you find that your big job is to get financing, to keep financing, keep everyone happy. And so in corporations, most of the time I think is wasted. Driving, you know, seeking consensus and coordinating, and it's really hard to do actual work. And the good news of that for people that are entrepreneurs is that, you know, there's so many things you can do that are really valuable, and big business is unlikely to catch on because by the time they've had 100 meetings on it, you're well on your way. So there are good things to it, I guess.
So do you think that maybe the change in the corporations can come from the CEO or the C-level saying, like, okay, you're saying that it's so difficult to change the entire culture, but maybe, do you think that maybe we need to change from the top to the bottom?
Yeah, it's totally top down. It's like coup d'etat. And so I personally have always gone in and out of corporations. I'm definitely an entrepreneur at heart, but often there's been really sexy opportunities corporate-wise where you've been able to do things that I can't do as an entrepreneur, you know, like really almost tackle bigger problems, more challenging things, and so that has always appealed to me. But I've always known that it's only possible if you report directly to the CEO, directly to the president, and you don't report to the business units. It's like really important that the head of digital not report to marketing or operations or sales, because they squash you. And so you have to report all the way to the top, and they have to be really in it. I mean, if the president and or CEO are not 100% convinced of a digital project, for example, it's never going to happen. And money isn't really the driver. Like I've actually worked with corporations that have spent $8-10 million on failed digital transformation projects because it really fundamentally is not a money problem. It really is a culture problem and a change problem. And so it requires a couple of ingredients that always work, such as not buying digital usually when big corporations buy startups, they usually squash them. That's the reality, with exceptions. And if they innovate within, however, it's better, but they have to set these people separately and have them kind of run to their own rhythm. And very few corporations are comfortable with that. But if they're comfortable with that, that's the method. And that's what we used at AD. You know, at Adolfo Dominguez, we had a separate space. Nobody even ever came because we were like in a completely separate space. And that's why it worked. And when they actually integrated us, because they felt like the project was more mature, we started first we stopped growing as much, and then we started flatlining, and before I left we even lost a bit. So it's just like, doesn't work.
Wow. So in your case, Pedro, you just came to Telefónica, you're launching new projects, new products. So how is the experience?
I think there is a small trick here. You did the opposite path that I followed.
Yeah.
You were at Telefónica and you left Telefónica and you started. You took a lot of knowledge and a lot of good and bad practices and what they need and how things can do it with. And with this knowledge, you are free to develop your own project. And that's you start with a small advantage taken from the corporation to start your project with the liberty of and there's a trick because you have an advantage. And I have also a trick because in the opposite way you have another advantage. As you say, I think that there is no way to to launch a new product inside a big corporation, if it is not the CEO, no other person, if it's not the CEO or the president who really wants to do this, because you will fight a lot of different cultures and different positions. So that's the trick inside here, is that when you cannot do it in a corporation if you don't. It's sad, but it's the real thing. When you come from a successful project outside the corporation, you have the credibility, and you get the authority from the top management of the company to do what you want. So maybe 90% of people don't believe in what you are doing, but they know that you have the authority and the last 1 year of credibility to do that. So when you maybe from an isolated point of view, you start a project, you will have some problems. You start, you work in a corporation, you have another problems, but when you are working in both sides, when you have working in both sides, you get free from a corporation, get free not in the bad sense of the word, but you get the ability to start up with the knowledge of a corporation, you have advantages, and when you have succeeded in a startup project and you get into a corporation, you get the two main tools that you need, is the credibility and the authority to do the things. That this is a long-term, a short-term credit, because it lasts 1 year. So then now I'm happy in Telefónica because I come to Telefónica with a backup of the top level management of the company. I feel that almost every single person at Telefónica wants to do something, and even if they feel that they are going to fail, they want. At last in 2018, they want to try these things, and you have the authority to do that. That's what we are in. When I was in my previous project from scratch with full liberty, we spent 7 months in launching a small project. In Telefónica, this is the big elephant that is supposedly not able to get moved. We have launched a much bigger project, that is O2, in 4 months. So people, when they want to do it, they can do it. So the problem is the trick. You don't have the one way or another way. If you stay from another way, it's much more difficult for you. And maybe the most brilliant people are inside the companies, but they will have the credibility from the top management to launch the project. It's sad, but this is the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I really with both. You know, like in my case, I really embrace people and projects. I mean, I think that the most important thing here is to know who you are and who you want to do, whatever you are. If you are in a corporate or if you are in a startup. So if you are in a corporate and you are surrounded by people who you believe in, it's quite easy to do things with them. And at the same time, the projects you have to achieve are related to those people, right? So if you can just mix both things, both to talk about the secret sauce. In my case, I think it's about people and projects. And what I mean is that it's the same thing in startups. You can be in an amazing project, but maybe you don't connect with with your own team, or if you have an employee, or you are an employee, maybe you don't connect with the CEO or the C-level. So I think it's quite important in order to succeed, to get connected with the people you want to be and with the projects you want to be part of. And it's the same when you are running, you're a C-level person in a corporate and you want to create these connections with entrepreneurs. It's also the same. You need to put the people that can get that connections for real, not on a corporate, PR thing, but for real. You have to connect them with these people who can do this kind of conversations on a natural language, right? So, what I really believe is that you can have great experiences at a corporate. You can have amazing experiences also in a startup, and you can have them both wherever you are. But I totally agree, absolutely, with Marcos. And if you don't like what you do, you just quit, right? And you have to choose whatever you want to be. But I think in my personal case, I've been always on the entrepreneurial side until these last 2 years. And I don't have, of course, a bad opinion on corporates. I really learned a lot. I really think that a big corporate, and in this case, an international company, is a great place to learn many things, even those things that you don't want to learn, like political skills and compliance stuff and whatever that slow a company, right? And that make it slow. But at the same time, now I am outside the company and I think, okay, those things that I really was, maybe not complaining because I wasn't, but those things that I really don't like about a company, about a corporate, are things that I needed to learn. I needed to understand that happens because now I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, and that's something that my mother is not comfortable with. But I don't know if I may build something again or I work on a startup. Now I know things that I didn't understand before. When I was an entrepreneur and I was trying to connect with corporate people, I sometimes didn't understand why things didn't happen. I couldn't know I couldn't be on the shoes of that guy when I was talking to him. Now I understand that maybe this guy wants to help. He really likes what he's doing. He's really trying to, but he's fighting with this blocker that is maybe in the corporate side. So I think that when you are mixing, and it's something that is happening right now. We are here for people. We are really in both worlds. Now in Telefónica, for instance, you have Mike Arias running Wayra, and he's coming from Carto, from a startup. Sergio from Carto too is now in Inditex, working on Zara.com. So it's people from those worlds mixing right now, and I think that's very good for the ecosystem. And I think that what it takes for for coming years is that when entrepreneurs will try to talk to a startup, they will find people who understands them, and the other side around, right? So my conclusion is that I really think that you can be happy wherever you want to be in both worlds if you understand exactly what you are doing and if you really like the things you have to do on that position. But if you are being, if you try to do impossible things that never happen, and I'm an entrepreneur, so I believe in impossible things, right? But at the same time, you have to be, acknowledge about exactly where you are.
Yeah.
But one thing, don't take me wrong. For instance, the skills on hard or soft skills, right? On compliance, policy, politics in an organization, that is extremely relevant for entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, as such, as a profile, tend to be extremely naive.
Yeah.
We think, or it is not my case because I went through that beforehand, right?
That's the trick.
That's the point. That's
the
trick.
point, exactly.
But entrepreneurs do think that because they think of it and they work on it and they have a great product, they're going to sell it to the big corporations. And then frustration comes.
Yeah.
And then it is the moment in which you get smashed by this. I guess no one from these big companies are here, but
we are here.
The Endesas of the world, the Ferrovials of the world, the Telefónicas of the world, or whatever, or the Banco Santanders of the world, they want to want what? Un minuto. So they want to work with startups, and they cannot do it with their current policies and all that. So that is precisely extremely important for entrepreneurs to know. And the other way around, I would go back to Telefónica, work for Telefónica in the future, but maybe working for him, maybe working for mine.
I don't think so.
Yeah, of course.
So maybe what we see now
it depends on the people, it depends on the project, it depends. There is no such thing as Telefónica.
Yeah.
There are many Telefónicas,
That's
and
what I
that
mean.
is the whole point. It really depends on where you're working, what you're doing, what is your scope, what you're going to be able to do if you're given the resources or not. I mean, that's the whole point. 1 minute.
So I think maybe the key point of all of that, just to do like a quick summary, is just like having corporates in startups, having entrepreneurs in the corporations, and maybe I think we can have profiles who understand both worlds, who can sell to a startup, who can sell to a corporation, who can work in a startup, who can work in a corporation.
Totally.
And that's maybe the perfect profile for the future, because
Yeah.
I know that I just moved to Telefonica also, and it's like, oh my God, so many
Yeah,
process.
it's the perfect profile.
The name
Hide
is
us.
process, you know?
You are at Guaira. That's the
Guaira is
fancy
a
part of
word.
Telefonica.
Guaira is a different word. So just if you want to summarize something, just a quick phrase, each of you, to make an advice for anyone who want to move either to the startup world, to the corporate world, or to the mixture, just to summarize and say bye to the audience.
So you mean advice or
Yeah, just an
conclusion?
advice for someone
I
who
mean-
wants to work either in startups,
Yeah.
corporates, or vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, I think both are fun and they give you different things. And I like what Pedro was saying. Like in corporations, you learn to be patient, you learn tact and diplomacy. And as an entrepreneur, you have to hustle and you have to have a clear vision and you need to be agile. So I can't imagine one not benefiting from both those things. And as a result, going in and out of corporations, I think really rounds out your professional profile, makes you very versatile. I think it's like a good thing. And I think we're loving to hate corporations. It's easy to hate corporations, but they have tremendous means that allow for very ambitious projects that would be very hard to do on your own. And some of my best life experiences have been working for others, even though I'm more of an entrepreneur at heart. Clearly, there is a place in corporations for entrepreneurs.
Great. Marcos?
Whatever you do, have fun.
Pedro?
Good one.
Yeah.
This is like pregnant. Let's say that when you are an entrepreneur, you are enjoying the 9 months of the process. At the end, the baby you have, you need another baby. You don't like that baby, and you are hungry for another baby. When you are in a corporation, you are suffering during the 9 months, but when you have the baby, you are much more happy with the baby because of the suffering on the path.
Great.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of them, with all of them. That maybe I would say that it's quite important to empathize with the other one, wherever you are. I think it's as I mentioned before, it's all about people. And I don't know. In my case, when I left the company, this Microsoft a few weeks ago, there's a lot of people inside the company, friends, that say, "You are crazy, man. What are you going to do? Are you giving back the Audi and the benefits and the salary and the what else?" And I said, "Of course, I will, because I really not, having fun," as he mentioned before. So what I mean is with that is that just understand each other. If I do that, it's because I think on one way, and I'm pretty sure that I have to empathize with those other guys that are happy where they are because they are happy. So if they are happy, we have to empathize with them. So yeah.
So thanks everyone for
Yeah.
coming. Thanks for each of you who shared your advices. And just if you work in a startup or in a corporation, you have those advices from great entrepreneurs. So have fun, enjoy South Summit, and of course visit Guaira, Telefonica, the new project of Pedro, the new project of Valeria, the new project of Marcos, and keep creating, keep innovating, keep studying new things. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.